Buchenwald concentration camp was one of the first concentration camps liberated by the Allied forces in Germany. Many of the prisoners were used to build railroads that would eventually bring in other prisoners from other concentration camps. All that is left of the railroad is the pathway that it once took. Once the prisoners would arrive, they would be divided. Many of the men would be workers, women and children, and the elderly were usually killed. Some were considered criminals, and they would be tortured and put in arrest cells. Every day, they would have daily beatings. They were also kept in small cells that gave them very little contact with the outside world. The longest known prisoner is 18 months, and he was a Catholic priest. When you walk through the main gate, it says Jedem das Siena, which loosely translated is, everyone gets what they deserve. In the morning, the prisoners would have inspection to determine if they too should be killed or if they could continue working. All that is left of the bunkers and where the men slept are these monuments. People will come from around the world and they will leave prayers by form of rock, and they will leave the little rocks on the monuments. And usually the monuments are divided by nationality. The prisoners were never mixed. If you were considered Jewish, you were kept in one area. If you were Polish, you were kept in one area. The nationalities were never combined. In the back of the camp is Little Camp, where prisoners were sent if they were sick or if they were being transported in from other camps and they were in quarantine. The conditions were horrible. There was no running water, only one toilet, and the floors were dirt. This is a famous photo of the liberation of Buchenwald in Little Camp. Block 56 was the youth block or the kinder block. There were few children at Buchenwald, and many of them were kept in one area, and they tended to look out for each other. This is all that is left of kinder block. When the prisoners arrived, they were required to take 3 photos, a front view, a side view, and a view of them with their cap on. There is known to be less than 1,000 women that stayed at Buchenwald, but they too had to take similar photos. The crematorium is where the prisoners were sent after they had died. The amount of bodies was too immense for the crematorium, so they would be piled up outside. They would do autopsies on some of them, giving them fake death records, falsifying the reasons that they died, so people were unaware of what was truly happening. After the bodies went through the crematorium, they were kept in these small urns. But many bodies were placed in at one time, so the division of the bodies was almost impossible. The crematorium had 6 ovens that would work 10 hours a day. Underneath the crematorium was considered the body cellar, and the bodies would fall through a chute. Many prisoners were also killed down in the cellar. They were hung or they were killed by SS guards. On the liberation of Buchenwald, there were over 700 urns that were found, and they were not labeled. And at this time, they are now buried underneath a monument outside of Buchenwald, and all the names of the unknown whereabouts of prisoners are there. Buchenwald was liberated April 11th, 1945, after some of the German soldiers had fled because American troops were closing in. The prisoners were able to gather arms and take over the remaining German guards. They opened the viewing to the public after the camp was liberated so that all the German society would know exactly what was going on. Many of the German people believed that it was a staged event and that we were falsifying what was happening, but once they came in, they could not deny the horrible things they were seeing. This monument now stands in honor of those who survived and those who did not survive Camp Buchenwald.